Welcome to English Through Ideas podcast, where we learn English through powerful ideas. So, imagine a massive, bloody gunfight right in the middle of New York City.
Okay, that's an intense start.
Right. I mean, bullets are flying. The police have this apartment building completely surrounded, and they have a vicious killer named Two Gun Crowley trapped inside.
Oh, wow. Two-gun Crowley.
Yeah. And he's bleeding. He's pinned down. But instead of surrendering, he actually sits down in the middle of all this chaos and writes a letter.
While the police are actively shooting at him.
Exactly. And in this letter, he writes, quote, "Under my coat is a weary heart, but a kind one that would do nobody any harm."
I mean, it's completely absurd when you really think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because this is a man who had just shot a police officer simply because, the officer asked to see his driver's license.
Right, over license.
Yet, even as he's shooting back at the police, he doesn't see himself as the bad guy. He genuinely believes he has a kind heart.
Which just blew my mind when I read our source material today, because it reveals this shocking truth about human nature.
It really does.
And that truth is sort of the foundation of our deep dive today into one of the most famous books ever written on communication and self-improvement. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes, and we're exploring a whole stack of notes, historical stories, and research to give you practical, everyday tools to make your interactions with people smoother.
Because we really need those tools, don't we?
We do. You might think that success in life, especially in technical fields like, say, engineering or finance, is all about how smart you are.
Right, like your technical knowledge.
Exactly. But a study from the Carnegie Foundation found something completely different. They discovered that even in engineering, only about 15% of financial success is due to technical knowledge.
Wow, only 15%.
Yeah, a massive 85% is due to skill in human engineering, which basically means your personality and your ability to lead people.
I mean, 85% is just staggering. It completely flips how we usually think about education.
It does.
And there's this old survey from a typical American town called Meriden, Connecticut, that backs this up. Researchers wanted to know what adults were actually interested in learning about.
Let me guess. Money.
Actually, no. Number one was health, but number two wasn't money or politics. It was people.
Oh, really?
Yeah. People just wanted to know how to understand others, how to get along with them, and how to influence them.
Because no matter who you are, like a student managing a group project, an executive leading a team, or just a parent trying to get a toddler to put on their shoes, dealing with people is probably your biggest daily challenge.
So let's get right into the biggest mistake we all make when we face that challenge. We try to change people by criticizing them.
Right.
But as that story of Two Gun Crowley shows, criticism is actually useless. If a dangerous killer doesn't blame himself for his actions, do you really think your coworker is going to blame themselves when you point out their mistake?
Exactly the opposite. They will instantly go on the defensive. The psychological mechanism here is that criticism attacks a person's pride.
Yeah, that makes sense.
99 times out of 100, people do not criticize themselves no matter how wrong they are. Instead, they justify their actions and begin to deeply resent the person criticizing them. And Abraham Lincoln actually learned this the hard way.
Right, the Gettysburg story.
Oh.
During the American Civil War, the Battle of Gettysburg was this massive turning point. The opposing leader, General Robert E. Lee, was totally trapped.
Right.
So Lincoln ordered his own commander, General Meade, to attack immediately and just end the war. But Meade hesitated.
He made excuses, right?
Yeah, he delayed the attack, and he eventually let Lee's army completely escape.
And Lincoln was furious. He wrote a really severe letter to Meade, laying out his deep disappointment and telling him what a golden opportunity he had just ruined.
But the really fascinating detail is that Lincoln never actually mailed that letter. It was found in his personal papers long after he died.
He held it back because he realized it wouldn't change the past. It would only make the future worse.
Exactly. He paused and put himself in Meade's shoes. He realized that receiving that letter wouldn't make Meade a better general. It would only make Meade try to justify his hesitation.
Right. It would crush his confidence and destroy his future usefulness to the army. Criticism doesn't teach anything. It just burns bridges.
There's an even more intense example of this with the famous pilot Bob Hoover.
Oh, this story's crazy.
Yeah. So he was flying a propeller plane when both engines suddenly died, right in midair. He somehow managed this crash landing.
Which is a miracle in itself.
Totally. The plane was completely destroyed, though luckily nobody was hurt. But when he inspected the wreckage, he found out why the engines died. His mechanic had accidentally filled the propeller plane with jet fuel.
I mean, that is an incredibly dangerous, careless mistake. The young mechanic was waiting for Hoover, just crying, absolutely sick with guilt.
I would be too.
Right. Most people would have screamed at him, maybe fired him right on the spot. But Hoover didn't yell. He didn't criticize.
What did he do?
He walked up, put his arm around the weeping mechanic's shoulder, and said, "To show you I'm sure that you'll never do this again, I want you to service my plane tomorrow."
Wait, hold on. I have to stop you right there.
Sure.
I hear what you're saying about how nice Bob Hoover was, but like, if I'm managing a team and someone makes a mistake that almost gets people killed, I can't just give them a hug.
Yeah, I get how that sounds.
Doesn't this approach just lead to people getting away with bad behavior? It feels like trying to train a dog without ever being allowed to say no.
It's a very fair concern. But it's not about ignoring the bad behavior. It's about understanding how the brain actually learns. The famous psychologist B.F. Skinner proved this through like a ton of extensive research.
Okay, what did he find?
He found that an animal, and this applies heavily to humans too, learns much faster and retains information far longer when rewarded for good behavior rather than when punished for bad behavior. Yeah, Hoover knew the mechanic was already punishing himself. Yelling wouldn't teach the mechanic anything new about fuel. It would only create fear and resentment. By offering trust instead of criticism, Hoover created this deeply loyal, hyper-careful mechanic for life.
Ah, because it taps into what the psychologist John Dewey called the deepest urge in human nature, which is the desire to be important.
Exactly. Charles Schwab, who was paid $1 million a year to run a steel company, said his entire secret was arousing enthusiasm through appreciation, not criticism.
So if we know criticism doesn't work and people just desperately want to feel important, I guess the next logical question is, how do we actually get people to do what we need them to do?
Right, and the sources offer a really simple analogy for this. It's about fishing.
Okay, fishing.
Yeah. Dale Carnegie loved strawberries and cream, but when he went fishing, he didn't bait the hook with strawberries and cream.
Obviously not.
Right, he baited it with worms. Because fish don't care about strawberries, fish prefer worms.
It sounds almost too obvious, but we constantly forget this when dealing with humans, don't we?
We do. We spend all our time talking about what we want. But no one else cares what we want. They only care about what they want. So to influence someone, you have to entirely shift your perspective and figure out what their worm is.
That makes total sense. And the story of Ralph Waldo Emerson and the calf perfectly illustrates this blind spot.
Oh, I love this story.
So Emerson and his son were trying to get a calf into a barn. They were only thinking about their own goal. So Emerson pushed the calf from behind, and his son pulled a rope from the front.
Which naturally didn't work.
Right. Because the calf was only thinking about what it wanted, which was to stay put. So it stubbornly stiffened its legs and just refused to move.
And then their Irish housemaid walked by. Now, she didn't write famous philosophy essays like Emerson, but she understood animal nature.
Yeah.
She thought about what the calf wanted. She simply put her finger into the calf's mouth and let it gently suck on her finger while she slowly walked into the barn. And the calf followed her willingly.
That's brilliant. Think about your own life for a second. Who is the calf you're trying to push into the barn right now? Is it a client who won't sign a contract? A child who refuses to eat dinner?
Right.
Are you trying to push them from behind, or are you offering them a finger to suck on?
That's the perfect way to frame it. And there's a modern equivalent in our notes about a father named Stan Novak. His young son, Tim, was kicking and screaming on the floor, absolutely refusing to go to his first day of kindergarten.
Oh, the classic toddler meltdown.
Exactly.
Wow.
The parents could have used force, pulled him by the arm, threatened him with punishment, but they paused and asked, why would Tim want to go?
So they went into the kitchen and just started finger painting and laughing, right?
Yeah. And obviously, Tim stopped crying and wanted to join the fun, but the parents told him, oh, no, you can't. You have to go to kindergarten to learn how to finger paint.
Huh. Maybe schools sound like an exclusive, exciting club.
And it worked completely. The next morning, the dad found Tim sitting in a chair by the door, fast asleep, just waiting to go to school.
They aroused an eager want in the child. It's about aligning what you want with what they desire.
Exactly.
It's sort of like trying to sell someone a heavy winter coat in the middle of a hot desert just because you have a sales quota to meet. You have to figure out what they are actually thirsty for.
Very true.
But here's the tricky part. Everyone's thirst is different. How do we figure out what people actually want when we first meet them?
Well, you can't really figure it out until you build a genuine connection with them. And the sources offer some surprisingly simple, low-effort actions that make you instantly likable.
Like what?
The first lesson actually comes from a dog. Think about it. A dog is the only animal that doesn't have to work for a living.
That's true. Hens lay eggs, cows give milk.
Right. But a dog makes a living just by giving you love. They are genuinely thrilled to see you.
We love dogs because they show pure joy. And as humans, we have a tool that does the exact same thing. A smile. There's a story in our notes about a tense, silent veterinary waiting room. Everyone is sitting there, super nervous about their sick pets, completely ignoring each other. Then a woman walks in with a 9-month-old baby.
And the baby just looks up at this grumpy, impatient man in the corner and flashes a big, toothless smile.
I can picture it.
The man's entire demeanor changes. He smiles back. He starts talking to the woman about his own grandchildren, and within minutes, the whole room is chatting and the tension is gone.
Wow.
A smile is a powerful signal. It tells the other person's brain, I like you. I am glad to see you. It disarms their social defenses instantly.
And once you've smiled and opened that door, the next tool is using their name. The book says a person's name is the sweetest, most important sound in any language.
Absolutely.
When the great industrialist Andrew Carnegie was a young boy, he had a mother rabbit that gave birth to a whole nest of babies. But he didn't have any food to feed them.
So he used a brilliant bit of psychology. He told the neighborhood kids that if they went out and picked dandelions and clovers to feed his rabbits, he would name the bunnies after them in return.
That is so clever.
It worked like magic. The kids happily gathered the food just to hear their names recognized. And years later, he used this exact same principle to win massive railroad contracts. He built a huge steel mill and named it after the president of the Pennsylvania Railroad.
Let me guess. When that railroad needed steel, where do you think the president bought it?
From the mill with his name on it, obviously.
It's so smart because a name validates a person's identity. But, smiling and using names only goes so far. The third tool is probably the hardest.
Being a genuinely good listener.
Exactly. The author of our source material tells a story about going to a dinner party and meeting an expert botanist. Now, the author knew absolutely nothing about plants, but he was fascinated.
So he just sat there and listened intently for hours, barely speaking a word.
Right. And when he finally left, the botanist told the host that the author was a most interesting conversationalist.
Even though he barely spoke.
Yeah.
The botanist felt that way because giving someone your complete attention is one of the highest compliments you can pay them. You are giving them your time, and you are validating that their words matter.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
People aren't stupid. If I just go around flashing a big fake smile, repeating people's names over and over, and nodding while they talk just to get them to like me, aren't they going to see right through it? It sounds like a manipulation trick.
That's a crucial distinction, and the source material is very clear about the difference between flattery and true appreciation.
Okay, what's the difference?
Flattery is shallow, selfish, and fake. It comes from the teeth out. People will sense that insincerity. Genuine appreciation comes from the heart out. You actually have to stop thinking about yourself long enough to find something you honestly admire about the other person.
So it has to be real.
Yes, if you're just using these tools as a cynical trick, it will backfire.
That makes a lot of sense. It requires an actual mindset shift, not just reading a script.
Right.
So let's say you've made that shift. You appreciate people, you listen, you find out what they want.
Okay.
But eventually, in the real world, you are going to bump heads. You're going to disagree with someone. How do we navigate a conflict without destroying all that goodwill we just built?
Well, the first rule is simple but incredibly difficult to practice.
Yeah.
The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it entirely. The Buddha is quoted in our sources saying, "Hatred is never ended by hatred, but by love."
That's beautiful.
A misunderstanding is never ended by an argument. It's ended by a sincere desire to see the other person's viewpoint.
And there's an ancient fable that captures this perfectly, the story of the sun and the wind.
Oh.
So they made a bet to see who could force a traveler to take off his heavy winter coat. The wind went first and blew a freezing gale as hard as it could. But the harder the wind blew, the tighter the man wrapped the coat around himself. Force just created massive resistance.
Then it was the sun's turn. The wind stopped, and the sun simply came out and shined warmly on the man. Within a few minutes, the man was sweating and voluntarily took off his coat.
Which proves the psychological lesson so clearly. Friendliness and warmth work much better than force and bluster. When you attack someone's position, they just cling to it tighter, like that coat.
Exactly. And this principle isn't just for fables. It works in corporate boardrooms, too. Look at the General Electric Company and Charles Steinmetz.
Right. Steinmetz was an absolute genius when it came to electrical engineering, but he was failing terribly as the head of the calculating department. He lacked those human engineering skills we talked about earlier.
And GE was in a very delicate position. They couldn't fire him. He was indispensable to the company. But they couldn't let him keep destroying the department's morale.
Right.
If they just bluntly demoted him, his pride would be crushed, and he might quit or just stop producing genius work altogether.
So they got creative. They gave him a brand new title, Consulting Engineer of the General Electric Company.
It was a fancy title for the exact same engineering work he was already doing, but it allowed them to put someone else in charge of the department. Steinmetz saved face.
He felt honored, not punished. And GE solved their management problem without an argument.
Saving face is incredibly important. It's about protecting the other person's dignity. You can also use this proactively by giving someone a fine reputation to live up to.
Oh, like the story about the teacher.
Yes. There's a great story about a fourth-grade teacher dealing with a chronically disruptive boy named Tommy. Instead of arguing with him or sending him to the principal, she greeted him on the first day by saying, "Tommy, I understand you are a natural leader. I'm going to depend on you to help me make this the best class in the fourth grade."
She completely flipped the script. She gave him a positive identity to protect. And because he had that fine reputation to live up to, his bad behavior completely vanished.
Exactly. When you expect the best of people and make it clear you respect them, they will work incredibly hard to prove you right.
But wait, what if someone is just, factually wrong? Let's say you're in a meeting and your colleague presents data that is completely incorrect. I can't just avoid the argument and let the company make a bad decision.
Of course not. But it's all about how you correct them. The source material recommends the Socrates method.
Okay, the Socrates method.
If you start by saying, "You're wrong and here's why," you immediately trigger that defensive wall. Instead, you start by emphasizing the things you agree on. You ask questions that get the person saying yes early on.
Why does saying yes matter so much, though?
Because it creates psychological momentum. When a person says no, their whole neurological system goes into a state of defense and rejection. When they say yes, they are open, accepting, and moving forward.
Oh, I see.
You build common ground first. And when you finally have to point out the mistake, you soften the blow by talking about your own mistakes first. If you admit that you aren't perfect, it lowers their defenses, making them much more receptive to your correction.
It's all about keeping that coat off. So looking at this whole stack of sources, the big takeaway for me is that true influence has absolutely nothing to do with manipulation.
No, not at all.
It's about a fundamental shift in how we view the world. We are naturally wired to think about, what I want, how I feel, why I'm right. But to win friends and actually influence people, we have to shift our focus entirely to you.
Right. It's about seeing the world through their eyes, remembering their names, understanding their worms, and validating their deep need to feel important.
It's a challenging shift, but the stories prove how incredibly effective it is. When you make people feel genuinely valued and understood, the resistance just melts away, and they naturally want to cooperate with you.
It's powerful stuff.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. Think about the person who irritates you the most right now. Maybe it's the difficult coworker who always argues, or a stubborn family member who never seems to listen.
We all have someone like that.
What if their difficult behavior isn't just them being annoying? What if it's actually a clumsy, unspoken request for the very feeling of importance we've been talking about today?
Wow.
How might your next interaction change if you stopped trying to fix them or win an argument, and instead treated them as someone simply starving for sincere appreciation? It might just change everything.
That is a perspective worth carrying into every conversation.
Thank you for learning with English through ideas. If you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe for more ideas, more English, and more growth.